I've been a little bit disingenuous in the videos I've posted so far over the last week. I have known some information about Earth2.io that I think is what I would call the dark side of the project and of it as an investment. You might disagree with some of the things I have to say, but I think there's some pretty damning knockout punches in what I have and what I've looked at about this game and about this investment. I feel kind of bad for not bringing these up in the past videos, but as I've learnt in the past from the cryptocurrency community, generally if you try to step right out in front of a freight train that is the optimism and excitement about an investment, usually that doesn't go very well, and people usually don't really like that. They usually get kind of angry, and they usually don't respond very well to being told that what they're interested in and what they're excited about is risky. But with this video, I wanted to speak about that, so I'm going to reveal everything else that I know about Earth2.io, and I would really suggest watching all of this video because I think a lot of it will save you money and save you investing, and if you have invested, this may change your mind and you might try to pull out your money after this, and at least get it back into dollars instead of in the land. Because when everyone else realizes this stuff, I don't think this is going to continue to be as popular as it has been. Basically, I want to point out off the start the key downfalls of why Earth2.io might not succeed. They don't own the idea. They own Earth2, and as a scale model, they own that scale model, but they are not the only people that are working on this technology. They're not the people that are the first people to work on this technology. They're just the first people to sell land. And they're only selling land first because they're very early in their development process. They haven't developed any sort of game. The website isn't even that great. The website's pretty buggy. All they've done is stuck a satellite on a website and put a grid over the top of it. That wouldn't be difficult to do even if you were just scamming it. I don't think they are scamming, and I think it isn't a real intention, but I think people have pulled that idea up into popularity a lot quicker than they were expecting. I mean, they only started selling land a couple of months ago. That's kind of why their payment system isn't great either. They probably just weren't ready for it. They don't own the idea, and Google Earth and Google already have a VR system that is not great by any means, but is far ahead of Earth2. It's far ahead of them, and they're a big company. There's lots of big companies that'll be interested in this idea, especially after they've seen the traction and the popularity that Earth2 itself has gained. It's a great way for them to gather investment for their development of the game. I'm sure they've done much better than they would if they just went to an investment company, but realistically, this is going to be easy to copy. It's going to be, you only own the land that you buy on Earth2. You don't own the land on any sort of iteration of this idea. And that changes the value of the land to me. Lots of people have been valuing Earth2 land based on how cheap it is compared to real land, but they're not factoring in the risk. They're not factoring in the fact that this could be created by any other company and you don't own the land on that company or in that game. This is very exciting technology, and the idea is very exciting, and I'm absolutely sure that there will be some game in the future where people sell land and buy land and they make a lot of money and it's worth a lot of money. Currently, CSGO skins, some of them are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm sure there will be land in the future in a game that will be valuable. I'm just not sure this game is that game. It'll be easy to remake. The other huge issue for me is how many tiles of land there are. A lot of people are comparing this to Bitcoin because there's only a set amount of land, but the amount of land that's available and how much it costs is quite scary and quite worrying when you start to think about it. Each tile in the game is 10 meters by 10 meters squared, so it's 100 meters squared. Earth, for just the land on Earth, not including any water, Earth is 149 trillion meters squared. That means that there is 1.49 trillion tiles of land on Earth 2. Currently, America for each tile is worth $35. And a lot of the other big countries are worth $3 to $8. Even if the tiles on Earth 2 are worth an average of $1 per tile across the whole system, that is $1.49 trillion. That is more than the second biggest company in the world is worth, Microsoft. They're worth $1.36 trillion. So, what values Earth 2 to be bigger than the second biggest company in the world? Bitcoin, which, as I mentioned, Earth 2 is often compared to, is worth $500 to $700 billion at the moment for all of the Bitcoin in the world. So that means Earth 2 is currently being valued, if it is worth $1 a tile, it's probably worth more than $1 a tile currently. But if it was only worth $1 a tile, especially considering America's $35, for $1 a tile, that would mean Earth 2 is worth 2 or 3 times the whole of Bitcoin, all of the Bitcoin in the world. That is ridiculous considering they only started selling it 2 months ago, and they're still years and years out from making the game. That is insane. I'm not sure what universe Earth 2 is being built in, but it's definitely not ours. That to me is a massive problem. Any sort of supply and demand issue, there's a lot of supply, and no matter how much demand there is, it's not going to make it worth what it currently is. Not in my opinion, at least. The other general problem that happens with any investment like this is that exciting investments are naturally more of a gamble. Generally, when people are excited about an investment, I think it's a very highly optimistic emotion. I think it's a very volatile emotion. I think generally when there's a huge group of people, and it feels like a huge group of people too, when it's becoming more popular and you're seeing lots of comments about it, when there's a group of people, it becomes this feedback loop that just feeds on excitement, and it keeps everybody just gets more excited and gets more excited in the idea and more optimistic, and everybody's just thinking that it's impossible for this idea to go badly. A big thing to think about, a big tablespoon of salt to think about with this investment is that it is exciting, and that changes the way your brain deals with it. Boring investments are boring, and that stops your brain from being interested in looking into them, and it makes you look away from them, which is what makes them consistent, secure investments for the long term, because there's not people jumping in and out, and it's not this big energy pool of lots of things. It's like when you heat up water and it is boiling. That water has lots of energy bouncing around in it, but you shouldn't go near that water. You shouldn't put your hand in that water just because it's bubbling. I'm not sure if that is a good metaphor, but that's how I think about these things. When water is cold, that's the water I want to drink. That's just how I think about it. I also keep being reminded of experience I had back in the cryptocurrency days, back in the crypto ICO days, initial coin offerings. This was back when companies kept launching through the system of offering a cryptocurrency, and they would pay you based on that cryptocurrency. I invested in one of these companies called Ambit Mining. They were a mining company that were going to mine cryptocurrency in the Tbilisi Free Trade Zone in Georgia. This already sounds kind of sketchy, but I do still stand by the idea to this day. In that area, they have low tax, they have low cost electricity, and it's cool air, so it's easy to cool computer systems and mining systems, which get very hot. I still stand by this being a great idea, but it didn't go well. Whether it was because of the timing with cryptocurrency at the time and they couldn't buy their systems, or whether the team just decided to leave with the money. It seemed like the team was credible. They ran a YouTube channel where they'd been mining for the last couple of years in the area, and they'd showed all of the experience that they had with mining, and they'd shown their personality a lot, so it seemed like it was going to have a lot of accountability. But we haven't heard from the CEO in a year and a half. This just reminds me about that ICO experience because the idea seemed good, there was a lot of people excited about it, a lot of smart people invested a lot of money into that idea, the team seemed good, there was advisors that were credible, like there is on this project with Dylan Zio. There are lots of factors in that seemed like it was going to be perfect, and I invested £400 into that because I had the fear of missing out that many people do with an idea like this one. I invested multiple times before they shut off investing because I kept thinking I was going to be regretting not putting more money in. £400 doesn't seem like a lot, but at 17, when I'd already lost £500 in the crypto bubble, that was a sizable investment for me. And it's gone. So this is just something to think about, that even if you are going to invest in this, again, take it with a pinch of salt and be careful not to invest money that you aren't willing to lose. I would recommend assuming that you're going to lose this money, assuming it's like a roulette wheel spin, where even though the odds on that are 50-50, if it was a roulette wheel spin where you're picking just one number and there's 1 in 30 or something, 36, or whatever the number is, I would assume it's like that, where you're just taking this big risk, taking this big gamble. You want to put down maybe 10, 20, maybe a little bit more dollars than that, maybe $10 or $20. You just want to put some money down so that you can say, if it went well, that you were at least involved. But I would assume that's all you're going to get out of it. I would assume it's kind of like buying a star or buying a plot of land on the moon. Both things you can do online, by the way. Both things you get certificates for, but there's no legal backing to it. There's no regulations behind it. There's nothing that says that you own that land on the moon. It's a bit of a novelty gift that you could get somebody. Buy your house. Buy your friend's house. I invested in this. I just threw $15 into it. I regretted it instantly afterwards because I already knew all of this information before I invested. This is the weird thing that your brain does where at least I won't miss out on this as an opportunity. But I bought a house in the French hills, even though man-made buildings are all going to be wiped in this game. I feel like they're going to build houses in places. It was a villa near Monaco for $15. It's cheap, and they have good. I mean, I'm sure realtors have researched the land. I mean, I'm already losing. I can't support the idea. I can't defend myself for investing in it. I invested in it to cover the fear of missing out, for the novelty of having a little house and a bit of land in the game, if it does go well. But I'm assuming that is gone forever. Or maybe I'll sell it in a couple of weeks to someone who's a bigger moron than me, and I'll make a little bit of money or lose a little bit of money, and that'll be that. That's just the sort of mentality I would take from this, because as I've spoken about, there are many reasons why this might not be valuable at all, even in a couple of months when people start to realize this. In terms of final thoughts and a conclusion, I think there is the potential that this underdog game and this development team, especially with this investment funding, could create a game that becomes popular. It could be the next Fortnite, Sims, or Minecraft that didn't really have big teams behind them at first. Or it could be overhyped and underdelivered, like Fallout 76, Cyber 2077, or No Man's Sky. Massive games with massive backing that still fell through. Game development is risky, and especially on technology that doesn't exist yet. So, I just don't have any confidence in it. This is disappointing to me. This was unfortunate. It's always unfortunate when a new investment idea that I'm excited about, when I start to research it and start to look into more information about it, that it disappoints, and it's risky, and it's overvalued, and it's not something that I'm interested in putting my own money into. At least not a significant amount of money into. I'm not trying to be negative with this, and I really don't want to seem negative. I've dealt with that in the past with cryptocurrency situations where you try to give people advice and you just seem negative or cynical. I don't want to seem like that. I was genuinely excited about this idea, and I am still excited about the idea of virtual land in the future. But I really can't recommend anybody buys any sort of virtual land through earth2.io. If it was Google selling land, it might be different. If there was only 1 million tiles and they were $1 each, it would be different. But neither of those things are true. And unfortunately, I don't think this is the time to be buying virtual land. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to check out my other videos on Earth2, if you're still interested in the subject, even if you aren't interested in investing, or if you are still interested in investing and what I've said hasn't put you off, then I've made a few videos over the last week and the last few days that cover more on this topic. If not, if you would like to see more information about other investment opportunities or other different parts of personal finance and money in general, subscribe down below. Follow me on my social media at JohnWMoney, and I will see you in all of these platforms in the future. I've been John Williamson. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.